Hello, everybody. Welcome to the SoxProspects.com podcast. We are the web's number one source for information on the Boston Red Sox farm system from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Pawtucket and all stops in between. Thank you for the listen. My name is Chris Hatfield, and I am the executive editor of SoxProspects.com. I am joined, as always, by my faithful sidekick, our director of scouting, Ian Kundle. Ian, what's going on, buddy? What's the haps?
It's really cold here. It doesn't feel like spring. It's just... It needs to get warm fast because I'd like to start going to some games, but they're always getting rained out or it's too cold. So
yeah, we were just watching the Portland game on MILB TV, and it looked miserable. There were about 40 people there,
and they were all wearing like winter clothes.
Yeah, it just did not look fun.
It's just not been. The weather needs to turn around pretty quickly because
it's been nice down here, man. Although I'm going to be going away for 2 weeks. We're going to have a nice quick hitter in theory for you episode tonight. Because on Sunday, I am leaving for Greece for 2 weeks. I'm not going to be here.
Must be nice.
It's going to be good. It's going to be
it's going to be warm.
I am going to eat all of the feta cheese in the world. And
That's nice.
And all of the phyllo dough. And it's going to be awesome.
And olives.
Yeah, definitely going to crush some olives. Like pick them off the tree and eat them. Like.
What else is Greek food? Like gyros?
We got the Rick Steves guide for the trip we're taking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the Greek diet. There's a line in there. The Greek diet consists of 4 food groups, and it's like
meat, cheese.
It's
wine.
like feta, olives, phyllo dough, and like one other thing or something like that. And it's apparently really close to like what you expect it to be from Greek food in the U.S. Like it's not like how Chinese food in the U.S. is like not actually Chinese food. You know what I mean?
You just like ruined Santa Claus for a bunch of people.
Oh, stop! Come on. like families with a lot of money in China aren't going out and getting like the best lo mein in town, right? Like,
or General Gao's chicken.
General Gao or General So. I'm deferential to General So.
Well,
Jennifer So, for that matter.
It's spelled Sao, but I think it's pronounced Gao. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry.
I don't know. But anyway, let's. People don't care about our food.
No, they don't care. Let's give a shout out to our $5 level supporters on Patreon.com who will get access along with the $2 level and higher supporters to the Patreon game updates. When we go to games, we'll post a little quick hitter on there for you. We usually would go to more games by now, but like all the games Ian's been trying to go to have gotten rained out. I'm definitely getting to some when I get back. I believe I catch Salem in Frederick. Yeah. At some point in June or July.
I've been rained out for the last 6 games I've tried to go to. Like I got bagged whole series for Portland, got rained out, and then 2 games with Pawtucket, and I was going to go to Portland tonight, but it was too cold, so it was just
and instead you're casting pots with me.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
Instead of casting aspersions.
Well, the other thing was Tanner Houck got moved to tomorrow, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my calendar. I've got, let's see. I don't have as much in June as I thought I did. I know I've got Salem in July. I got to double check. Oh, I might catch Lowell and Aberdeen in early July, too. They're here over a weekend, if they have anybody good. But anyway, shout out to our $5 level Patreon supporters. That's Sock Signatures, Kirby Miller, Kyle Costigan, Tyler Woodrawall, Tim Ware, Jeff Trainer, David Nardone, Tim Harding, Bill Stanton, Deb Kendall, Evan Kirkwood, Hurricanes 1, Chris Fox, James O'Hara, Nathan Kenyon, Andrew Wallen, Lendl Martin, Pat from New Hampshire. Thank you, Pat, for the name change. Ben Burnett and David B. Thank you all for your support. David B., I believe, is a new $5 level supporter. We love it. And, of course, send your emails to podcast@soxprospects.com. We want to talk about what you want to hear about, as we always like to say. Today, Ian and I – actually, there is one email, Ian, I should mention. So we'll get to that today. We're also going to talk a little bit about Michael Chavis in the majors, man. He's apparently the starting second baseman right now, but he's also the starting second baseman because 3 second basemen are on the DL or IL. Sorry, as we've talked about recently. So we're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about we've got new rankings. They went up a couple days ago. We're going to talk a little bit about the movement. Since there's not a whole lot to talk about since the last episode, we're going to be able to get into them a little bit more. Talk a little bit more about why some guys moved as much as they did, why some guys that maybe you guys thought would move more did not move as much as you thought. Based on Twitter, I kind of put out a call for people's predictions of what they thought were going to happen, and I was kind of surprised by a little bit of what I saw, not surprised by others. So we can get a little bit more into that. So, actually, Ian, do you want to let's do this a little backwards today? Let's get to the email first. Do you want to do that? Okay, so this email comes to us from Brian G, and he asks, "Hi, Sox prospects. I listened to your most previous podcast, and the juiced ball thing in AAA stuck with me. Just wondering what your thoughts are on the potential of high-contact, fringe power hitter guys like Pedro Castellanos and Jarren Duran, which are two very different hitters, but that's a separate question. It seems like advantage in the majors has gone to the big-time contact hitters like Mookie Betts, Christian Yelich, Jose Altuve, and you could argue Bogarts, who have seen massive power gains because of a minor swing/approach change, which I don't know that that's necessarily true. Could there be a higher ceiling for guys like Jarren Duran and Pedro Castellanos once they get to AAA and higher because they've already shown gap-to-gap power and high contact skills, and all they need is to see this new ball that shoots off the back if they make good contact at the higher levels? Thanks, Brian." Despite my stated disagreement with some things that he says in there, Ian, I think it's a very good question and a very good point of what's the threshold for power if we're now seeing that, it's in part the ball. Guys don't just necessarily gain power when they get to the majors. I mean, majors, the ball's just different. If you're a good contact hitter, that could mean you get more power when you get up there. How do you see that playing out? How do you see that factoring in, and how might that affect certain archetypes of prospect and maybe certain guys in the system?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, and I do think we're seeing it. Like when you bring up that kind of discussion, the person actually who comes to mind most to me is not one of the guys you mentioned. It's someone like Ozzie Albies, and Albies is with Atlanta. He was signed out of Curacao. He's 22 years old. He's in his third year in the majors now, and he's probably 5'7", 5'8", 160 pounds. And in his minor league career, here are his home run totals. You ready? 2014, he hit 1. 2015, he hit 0. 2016, he hit 6. 2017, which is the year he made his big league debut, he hit 17 combined between AAA and the majors. Last year, his first full year in the majors, he hit 24. And so we're talking about someone who in his minor league career had like 10 home runs coming into the year when he made the majors, and he's already got 6, and he's got 6 more already this year. And so, I mean, it is where we are seeing the guys who, they have the guys who hit the ball really hard. And if you can lift the ball at all, you can hit the ball over the fence in the big leagues. And I think another guy actually kind of fits in that is someone who the Red Sox fans will be pretty familiar from this year, Yandy Diaz with the Rays. He was a guy who always could hit, but he just hit the ball directly into the ground. But now that he's in the big leagues, he's hitting it a little. He's not hitting it in the air a lot, but when he does hit it in the air, it's probably going for a home run. And I think he's already got like 8 home runs this year.
Right.
And so I think that, yes, it's going to matter it's going to be an impact for certain guys, but I think that you have to take into consideration other factors which kind of trump that. Like, for example, someone like Castellanos, like approach wise, doesn't necessarily put himself in a good position to successfully lift the ball.
That's the difference.
Like, he's a guy who he doesn't strike out a lot. He doesn't walk at all either. And it's because he gets himself out a lot, kind of the Manuel Margot problem, where you just get a lot of cheap outs early in counts. And I mean, Castellanos, he's above 300 already? He is above 300.
Yeah, he's gotten really high lately.
Yeah, he's in like 304, 359, 402. And he's someone who I do think eventually the power will come, because if you watch him in BP, he has huge raw power. And he's, 6'3", 6'4", 200 pounds, whatever. So I do think he will eventually hit for power. But I just think there might be other issues that kind of limit his ability to tap into that. Whereas I think Duran is actually an interesting case and someone I'm going to be watching closely as he gets to high minors, because he does hit the ball really hard, but I'm not sure how much he hits it in the air. I was actually just going to bring up his stats.
This is Castellanos or no?
No, Duran. I moved on to Duran. Yeah. Duran's ground ball rate is above 50% right now. And the thing is, in order for the juice ball to make an impact, you kind of need to hit fly balls. Whereas Duran, when he makes contact, it's a lot of line drives.
Is he still at 1 home run?
Yeah.
Yeah,
one
so
home
I
run.
saw the 1 home run, and it was
3 triples, 5 doubles.
Yeah, I mean, and it was kind of a wall scraper 3 triples and 5 doubles. Okay, so I saw one of the doubles, one of the triples, and the home run.
But this is the thing, like his line drive rate's 30%.
The triple was better hit than the home run.
Yeah, he hits the ball really hard, but he doesn't get that like backspin where the ball makes a difference. It's a lot of his are like topspin line drives. Mm-hmm. And the guys who I think you're going to see it with more are the guys who can just like drop the back shoulder and backspin a ball up in the air and just have it carry. So I mean, I think it is definitely something I'm not sure how we factor in, frankly, yet. I kind of want to see it. And I think that the closest case to me, that the one I'm most looking forward to seeing the impact on, is actually CJ Chatham.
I literally, the finger I put in the air with the point I wanted to make was, I just saw him, and I'm very interested to see how he does in AAA.
He's someone who this year he's made some adjustments to try and hit the ball in the air more, and it's working a little bit. Last year he was around 50% with his ground ball rate, and only 20% with his fly ball rate across Salem and Greenville. And this year in Portland, his fly ball rate is 36.1%.
Yeah, and even in cold weather, his isolated power is 120, which is better than he's had. Right?
And the ball does not, I will say, having been up to Portland right now, the ball does not carry at all. No. So if you hit the ball in the air in Portland in April, even if he has 9 doubles already, which is pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. And he's slugging .430 without hitting a single home run. So he's I think going to be the test case for me with the Red Sox system, and someone who will give us a really good idea of how much of an impact it can have. Because Chatham is someone who's he's 6'4"-ish, I think. He's a big boy. He just never had that swing to be able to hit for power before. It was just a lot of line drives. But now he's trying to launch angle it up a little more, get the ball in the air more, and the results are working thus far. Right. And so he's what I want to see, because if he can hit for power, his outlook changes completely. He's one of the biggest guys who things could change for.
He could be, if he hits for average power,
he's JJ Hardy.
That good a defender, you think?
He's a plus defender at shortstop. JJ Hardy was probably a little better than that, but that's
you think CJ Chatham's a plus defender? I would put him at above average. I don't know that I put him at plus.
I would say above average. Probably above average, yeah. Maybe plus arm, above average defense, overall package. But JJ Hardy in his peak was let me look. He was he's smaller. He was 6'2", but JJ Hardy had a couple 260, 270 with 20 to 25 home runs. Mm-hmm. If Chatham can hit for power with his frame, you never know with how big the ball is going to make the difference. And that's why he's the one I'm most interested kind of to see who's proximity wise is close to AAA.
Well, there is also what is Bobby Dahlbeck going to do with the juice ball?
Yeah, but he doesn't.
I know. It's a joke. It's a different. That's just more for shiggles.
Yeah, but Dahlbeck also is having such a weird year. He's hitting 180, but he has a 350 OBP.
Yeah, probably because no one wants to throw him a pitch in the middle of the plate because they know what he'll do to it.
His BABIP is also 250, which is not going to stay that way. But
what's his line drive percentage?
15%.
Yeah, so that should go up to about. Wait, what's that?
That's last year. It was 28 with Salem and 16.5 with Portland.
Usually, so the rule of thumb is you can take the line drive percentage and add 15%. That's usually where the BABIP should wind up. His big problem right now is he's hitting 14% pop-up percentage, and his infield fly ball rate has jumped considerably. That's his big issue right now, because the K rate's dropped. It's dropped from 37% to 27%. Yeah, and the walk rate's up from 4 to 18. So yeah, with Portland, I was on with Matt McCarthy last night on the 98.5 baseball podcast, and we talked a little bit about Dahlbeck, and I just said, look, man, stats from Portland in April, you just got to kind of take them with an enormous grain of salt.
Hitting in April in Portland is a disaster.
Pitching too. Everything in
it's not an ideal environment. They've had 7 games rained out already too. Yeah, you just can't get in a rhythm.
Well, we were talking about Darwinzon because he had 2 starts, went up to the majors for a 3-inning relief appearance, and then came back down and had his third minor league start pushed back at least one night, maybe 2. And he stunk.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's your routine gets so disrupted because there'll be most days you're not taking BP on the field because you can't use the field because it's tarped up, and then it's just
And you've got and plus when you've got guys who are international amateur free agents from Latin America. This is their first time playing baseball consistently in 40-degree weather, 50-degree weather. Because even if these guys wind up playing in Lowell, they're playing in Lowell in June, July, August. So
at worst, in late August, maybe you have a couple 60-degree days.
Right. Or
So, yeah.
the like first week of September games.
Yeah. But I know it's an interesting question. And like, we're kind of seeing it with Pawtucket. I think we mentioned it. I want to say on the last podcast, we talked about like Mike Miller has 3 home runs already this year.
Yeah. He's actually hitting. Yeah.
Like another example, I think a good example actually of this is Rusney Castillo. Rusney Castillo hit 5 home runs all of last year. He's already got 4 this year. Like, he's another guy who like, he has some pop, but it was just a lot of line drives, but now those line drives are carrying out. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And before anyone asks, no, we're not going to see him in the majors anytime soon. By the way, thanks for the great email, Brian.
Unfortunately, because he's good, but whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, he's 4th outfielder good.
It's usable.
It is, but not usable for that price. And if any team in the majors wanted to use him for that price, they could trade for him. We'd probably take a bag of baseballs at this point. All right, but yeah, thanks for the question. The other thing we wanted to talk about, Ian, I guess while we're talking high minors and hitting and power and things like that, your current starting second baseman for the Red Sox, despite what we said last time, is Michael Chavis. Chavis at this point has started, let's see, for whatever reason we don't have last night's games in there. I don't know. Wait, the Red Sox did play yesterday, right? I'm not making this up. They won.
Yeah, they beat Oakland.
They beat Oakland, right. Yeah, I mean, Chavis is pretty clearly, he started all but 2 of the last 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10 games at second base. So he's 8 of the last 10. He's your starting second baseman for your Boston Red Sox. And one of those games, he actually started at first ahead of Steve Pearce because they basically subbed Lynn in for Pearce. So Michael Chavis is your starting second baseman for sure right now. The question is, Ian, well, let's start here. Are you surprised by what he's been doing in the majors? And let's actually analyze what is it that he's been doing in the majors, because I think everyone's just kind of, if you don't dive deep into what he's been doing, the assumption could be, oh, Michael Chavis is tearing up the major leagues right now. He's hitting 314, 442, 600. But there's some underlying stuff there that our friend Red Sox Stats just tweeted. I don't know if you want to mention it, but 12. The K rate in the majors is 27%, which is a lot higher than he was. Well, I guess you can't really look at Pawtucket. Pawtucket's 12 games.
No,
but
27% is not outrageous.
It's not outrageous, but he's hitting. Let's see. I don't know what that means. I mean, the line drive rate in the majors is just 8.7%.
He's just dropping his shoulder and just hitting bombs, trying to.
Yeah.
I mean, which is what he does.
Pop-up rate is 13%.
But I think the biggest thing is Red Sox Stats friend on Twitter tweeted out, and great follow if you're a Red Sox fan. Tweeted out, yes, definitely. I got to bring it up. That Chavis has this year swung at 84 pitches and missed 35 times. That's really bad.
Yeah.
That's like more than a third of his swings are swing and misses. And that just kind of says that what he's doing isn't really sustainable. And that's kind of concerning. Cause I think the power is legit. I mean, we've seen some of the home runs he hits. Like, he doesn't get cheated when he makes contact.
Right.
The problem is that the approach is still actually, it's surprisingly been better than I expected in terms of he's actually taking some walks and like not necessarily kind of swinging out of his heels at all times. But it's just, I'm not sure. I'm trying to bring it up. I can't right now. It's not working. But his BABIP, I don't think is very sustainable.
Right now, his BABIP's 400.
Yeah, so that's going to drop at least 60 points, 70 points.
It's, using the rule of thumb, I just said a 400 average on balls in play with an 8.7 line drive percentage is not sustainable. That's going down. And like, the walk percentage is really encouraging. I like that. I will give him credit for that. If he's going to walk at the big league level at a 16% rate, then he has a chance to be an everyday guy. Yeah, but that's also a huge spike from anything he's ever done in the past. Right, and I'm just not sure. Like, this is such a small sample. I'm just not sure how sustainable it is. And he's just the pop-up percentage is concerning. The lack of line drives is concerning. Like, the swing and miss rate. So, I mean, he's definitely provided like a boost to the offense, and his power is legit, but I'm not sure how sustainable it is. And I'm kind of concerned that what's going to happen is that as soon as he gets in a slump, that's kind of their excuse to send him back down and bring back in, one of the old guard guys, even though they're not very good either. Well, you said you're concerned about that, or I don't know that I'm concerned about that. No, I'm not concerned, actually. I guess that was the wrong word. I think that's the most likely outcome. Yeah. Yeah, and so, I mean, let's talk about this because Dustin Pedroia started a rehab assignment in Portland tonight. Hopefully it lasts longer than his last one did because that was a debacle, as we mentioned. And apparently, I hadn't realized this. And, oh, by the way, after we finish this topic, we need to do corrections on pronunciations that I've been meaning to say on here. Yeah. But apparently players have more say on their rehab assignments than I was aware of. It's in the CBA. I didn't realize this, that players, did you realize this, that players have to approve a rehab assignment?
I thought only guys who had like 10 years of service.
No,
or something.
It's all players have to approve rehab assignments. Oh. So Cora was talking about this the other day. Apparently, like, players have a lot of say in their rehab. So did
Pedroia it was the inference basically Pedroia was like, I'm ready, bring me back up?
I don't know.
Because it made no sense how short his last one was.
Well, the same thing with Steve Pearce, man. Like, his was way too short. And look, he's been terrible because he's still in spring training mode. Because, of course, these guys want to work the kinks out in Boston and not Pawtucket. You know what I mean? They don't want to ride buses to Buffalo. Who wants to do that? Who wants to go to Buffalo? I'm just kidding. We like Buffalo.
They don't want to ride buses. They don't want to have to, stay in, like, 2-star, 3-star hotels, like Courtyard Marriott's versus the Four Seasons or the Ritz. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's true.
I get it, but it's just, hopefully he's down for longer. Brock Holt is not currently on rehab because his second rehab assignment got ended prematurely again because, what was it, a shoulder issue?
Shoulder impingement, I believe.
Shoulder impingement, so that's not happening. Eduardo Núñez is rehabbing at Pawtucket, and
he seems the closest.
Yeah.
But frankly, I like, I don't think Chavis goes down when he comes back. I think Lynn would.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Lynn does, or
a pitcher.
Or Steve Pearce gets DL'd.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that sounds right. That sounds right.
As with them, what I would do is you ride Chavis as long as he's hot. And as long as he stays where he is, in the range he is now, even if it's like above like 250, the impact he makes just with the power potential and the ability to, because of all those guys, he's the only one with power. Mm-hmm. So he's the guy who, can change, no pun intended, but you can change a game with one swing. He's the only one who can do that of that crew.
Right.
And so given how much of a jolt it seemed to lift the bottom of the lineup, especially with Jackie Bradley still not hitting. Like, he's playing an important role. I think he's hitting like 6th today, I want to say. I think he's been hitting 6th of late, I believe, maybe 7th. And so it's hard to take. Yeah, he's hitting 6th again. It's hard to take someone like that out of the lineup when they're getting on base and actually hitting the ball well. So I think he's, for good or bad, he's the starting second baseman. And you know what? I will give him credit. Like, as we mentioned on the last podcast, his defense has looked fine at the major league level. I mean, he doesn't do anything outstanding, but I think it looks passable enough. And that's why if I'm them, I completely scratch third base and I look towards making him a full-time second baseman, maybe with a little first base sprinkled in.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like right now he could be the heir to Pedroia at second.
Yeah. And if that's, if he turns into a second baseman, that's like a Jonathan Scope offensive profile, like upside wise. Yeah. Like, that's your best case is you're looking at someone who could hit like 280 with, no, not 280 maybe, but like, 260 to 270 with 25 to 30 home runs. I think that's what Scope was for a while.
Yeah.
And that's like obviously Chavis' ceiling, but if he turns into that, that's a heck of an outcome. And it'll be funny because they kind of backed into it because they had committed to him at second base. And he
just fell into it at the major league level. Yeah. It's kind of crazy. It's really kind of crazy. And it's not comparable to like a Mookie Betts moving to the outfield because they moved Mookie Betts to the outfield in Double-A consciously knowing that Pedroia was at second.
Yeah.
This is a major league player. We need to get him in position. Whereas with Chavis, it was just kind of like, all right, this guy's kind of ready. We don't know how he plays in the majors. Well, no, I mean, they moved him to second base first. And they were just kind of like, get him some versatility so that when
he had played like 6 games at second base. Like, he wasn't playing every day.
In Pawtucket. Yeah. No, true. Exactly. And it was just kind of a, get him versatility for when we need him somewhere.
Yeah.
But I could see him being a guy who splits his time between first and second. I mean, the thing is, they also don't have a first baseman on next year's roster.
Right. So that's
so maybe he's the first baseman.
Yeah. And I think he has not played third yet, has he?
In the majors?
Yeah. I don't think he has.
Well, he might have. I'll look it up.
But yeah, I mean, I just was my point was just like people who are calling like questioning Rafael Devers' defense because of like Chavis, like it's not happening.
No, Chavis isn't going to displace him. Yeah, so Chavis in the majors.
He's played one game at third base.
Well, 2 games, 1 start, 11 innings. He's gotten 1 chance.
He's not a third baseman, so yeah.
He's had 1 successful chance and an assist. Yeah. He's thrown 1 guy out.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why like
a range factor per 9 of 0.82.
Yeah, that we don't need to read into error numbers. That's why they don't mean anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think just to sum up the Chavis talk, I've been impressed. I'm encouraged by some things, but the underlying numbers are a little bit scary, and I'd be prepared for regression.
Yep. Yeah, I think just to kind of wrap up the roster piece of this, I think Núñez apparently comes back first. I think the only reason I would be slow to say Lynn goes back down is that who's your backup shortstop then? Núñez?
It's not great.
That's not the ideal situation.
Well, they should send down Josh Smith, but I don't know.
Well, they probably no. You know what? They will. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to send Josh Smith.
You don't need 13 pitchers. No,
they're going to send you. Well, they brought Josh Smith up to start on that Friday night, and then it got rained out.
But they've kept the roster.
What's that? Yeah, I know, but I think they're just waiting until. I mean, what are they going to do? Send him down? I mean, they can't call up Lakins. They can't call up Pointer.
Well, and they literally the only position player they can call up is Sam Travis.
So there's no point. So I think it's either once Lakins or Pointer is eligible to come back up, or if Núñez is close to ready, they'll call Núñez up. They'll go with a full bench for the first time all year, and then they'll keep Chavis up until Holt or Pedroia is ready, and we'll see what happens at that point, whether it's a Pearce thing or whether it's a Lynn thing or whether it's a Chavis thing. All right, well, let's talk about rankings, Ian. We have our May rankings. They are up. No real movement at the tippity top. The top 6 stayed where they were. It's kind of weird, Ian, because I think, some people would have looked at how Tristan Casas was struggling at first, at how Bobby Dahlbeck has been kind of struggling. Tanner Houck's numbers don't jump off the page at you yet, although they're getting better. Jay Groom, is always hard to rank a Tommy John guy because they haven't played, which we've known about. Were you tempted to move anybody in that range? I thought about it, and then it's just kind of like too early with what they're doing relative to each other.
No, nothing's changed for me on pretty much anyone from spring training to now.
Yeah, Chavis kind of broke away from the pack a little bit in the sense of solidifying number 1, but otherwise...
Yeah, I mean, you look at Koss, it's like he got off to a slow start. He's kind of picked it up of late. I think he's homered twice tonight already. It's just, Or no, he's homered the last 2 games. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Because he homered last night and then he homered again tonight.
Did he homer again tonight?
Yeah, it's just awesome. I don't like to read into April stats is what it really comes down to.
Especially for 2018 draftee and full season ball in April.
Yeah. Because Brandon Howlett was another example. We'll get to him, I'm sure, in a little bit. But he got off to a really slow start, and then I think he's on a 9-game hitting streak now, and he's got his average up to 250. Yeah, he had 4 hits last night. I think he's got a couple more tonight. He's hitting 361 in his last 10 games. Yep. Early season, it's just these stats mean absolutely nothing. I'm confident enough in our evaluation process and our history with the guys that they'll figure it out. And when they do it, and so much can change given how we're at 75 at bats on the year.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Right. One change we did make, we did have a little bit of movement in the top 10. The first movement was C.J. Chatham, and we talked about flip-flopping with Anthony Flores. Chatham is now at 7.
But that's warranted. That's not a stats thing. That's his swing is legitimately changed thing. And that was the big question we've always had with him.
And the thing is, we literally debated how to order them. Yeah,
before the season. Yeah.
So it was just it wasn't like we were clear on Flores ahead of Chatham.
No. It was this is the process. We've seen this guy make some changes in spring training. Let's see how it carries over to the games. Okay, it looks good. The reports are good. Let's make the move.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. First big mover, though, it should surprise no one who's been paying attention. He's going to be the Sox Prospects Player of the Month for April, and that's Jarren Duran. Duran, at least as of our update this morning, is hitting 404, 459, 545 with a home run in 99 at bats. As good of an April as we've seen in a minute, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, he just hits. I mean,
it's so weird. The average on balls in play is over 500 right now.
Yeah, but I mean, it's obviously not going to stay that, but because of his speed, he's always going to have inflated BABIPs.
Yes.
And I think, I would not be surprised if he's a guy who has a BABIP above, close to 400, even the higher he gets, because if he hits it on the ground anywhere with it, that's 2 or more steps from a fielder, he's going to get on base. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter where it is.
Smoked, yeah.
Yeah, yes. And that's the thing. And I mean, he just hits and runs. He's I don't know what else.
He can put a charge into it. It's not like he's a slasher who's dragged. His ground ball rate, as you mentioned, is pretty high.
Yeah.
But it's not like he's just slashing and running.
No, but his line drive rate is 30%. He just hits the ball really hard. It's a very level swing. And because of his speed, it just plays so well. It's we talked about it, I think, in his player report, which is now kind of transitioned to one of the new report styles.
Yeah, check out the new scouting reports for the top 20 prospects, everyone.
But I think we talk about it with his power that, he's not going to hit that many over the fence home runs, but his ISO and his slug is going to be high because he's going to have so many doubles and triples just because of his speed. Yeah. And I think this year he's already got 3 triples, and that was after last year where he led the minors in triples after playing 60 games.
Yeah.
He's just a very unique player. And we talked about it after we saw him. I think I talked about it the first time I saw him last year in Lowell. It's this is such an un-Red Sox draftee. I don't know what to make of him. My brain is broken watching him. He should be on the Texas Rangers.
Right. Yeah.
He's such a tooled up player that a tooled up college guy, which is such a unique skill set. But when you look back, it makes sense. I mean, he got Long Beach State at his swing, and they let him go back to what he's comfortable, and all of a sudden he's hitting again.
Yeah, Duran moved up 5 spots from number 13, which this early in the year is a pretty big jump at that point in the rankings.
And I will say, with him, though, this was obviously the stats.
4 spots.
The stats were obviously great. But it was also a thing where we saw him last year and it was we know what this guy is. We had a pretty good, I think our scouting report was on him right away.
Yep.
And but he's a 21-year-old college guy in Lowell. Mm-hmm. Show me you can do it in Salem. Okay, he did it. He came out against, got age equivalent players in Salem this year and is destroying the league.
Yep.
And that was enough for me to see all right, we were right. This guy can hit. It's time.
Let's push him. Yeah, I like it. I like where he's at. The next at 10 is Durbin Feltman and 11 Brian Mata. It looks like they both moved down one, but really it's just that they've been passed by Duran. They haven't moved down.
I mean, everyone in that.
Yeah, then actually, at 12, Brandon Howlett, 13, Nick Decker. All of them moved down one, but that's just because Duran went ahead of them. Yeah. One thing that people might be wondering is Brian Mata has come out very hot this year, 25 2/3 innings, 26 Ks, 7 walks, a whip under 1, an ERA of 1.40, and he's going to be our pitcher of the month by a nose over Kyle Hart, which Kyle Hart enters the pack of the rankings just to show you, performance over 1 month doesn't necessarily mean a ton. But that said, he's the youngest player in the Carolina League on the one hand. On the other hand, he's repeating the level. Some people might wonder why Mata didn't move up more. What are your thoughts on that? Move up at all, I guess, not even move up more.
Yeah, the numbers are great, obviously. I still have some lingering concerns with how the stuff and the command profile is going to play against more advanced hitters. Mm-hmm. The things that are encouraging to me is the walk rate is down significantly. He's walked 7 guys in 25 innings after last year where he walked 58 and 72. So that's extremely encouraging. The ground ball rate I also really like. It's up to 67%, which is insane for a starter.
He's got a crazy
which just shows he's keeping the ball down. And so it's just I just want to see it just continue. Just give it, just keep it up for a little longer and then, we'll start to talk. But the other concern still is though, I still am not sure he's a starter. And obviously we talk about that with most Red Sox pitchers, but the new pitch is interesting. Let's see how that continues. He's one I want to see a little more and then we'll go from there. So, yeah, he's someone who I would not be surprised if he moved up come the next month. But the thing is, the guys that are ahead of him for the most part are all performing or they're guys that we know what they are. So it's kind of a packed area. The drop off from 7 to, 11 or so they're all really tightly kind of together, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Yeah, so Mata, let's look at some charts. Maybe. No, all right. Well, I'll get a swinging strike rate for his swinging strike rate. Number of pitches for strikes. We don't have swinging strikes, unfortunately. Unfortunatamente. But yeah, I mean, the strike percentage this year, at least. Last year he threw 56% strikes. This year he's up to 64% strikes. I think the cutter. I mean, like I said last time, I got to report the cutter was 93 for one pitch. If that became a regular thing, that'd be great. The next outing, the same scout saw and he talked to me and he said he was a little less impressed with Mata. So I just want to see more consistency myself. I actually did have Mata ahead of Feltman, but it's close for me. We debated it. We went Feltman over Mata to keep what we had. So I could see Mata. If Mata does this again in May, yeah, he'll be moved up.
The thing that would change it for me is if I feel more confident Mata, or get reports that people think Mata has a better chance of starting. Because if they're both ticketed for the bullpen, I think Feltman has slightly better stuff in that role. But if Mata has a better chance to start, then that changes things.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Mata's stuff ticking up too. I mean, he's sitting 93, 94.
No, I think his stuff will tick up. But I know what Feltman is out of the bullpen right now. I know it's a 70 fastball and a 65 breaking ball. Like Mata, I'm not sure he has that secondary pitch that I would call even close to a 60 or a 65 yet.
Okay, fair enough. Other guys who moved up, we should mention Alex Scherf up from 18 to 15. What do you see there, Ian? I mean, obviously the numbers are great, 19 innings, 19 Ks, 8 walks, a little high, but the whip is 105, ERA below 2.
Just the velocity's back for him. I think in his first start he was like 94 to 97. He's been more like 92, 95 in the other starts, but still that's an upgrade over last year when he was 90 to 92. So that's all encouraging stuff. But he is a 21-year-old repeating Greenville. So he's a weird one because he's a high school guy, but he was really old for high school. So yeah, I kind of want to see him get up to Salem before we start the hype train going.
I think he could be one of the first guys promoted to Salem too. There's room in that rotation. This clearly looked like consolidate your gains in Greenville for a month or month and a half, and we'll move up to Salem.
Because we're now approaching like 4 months or 3 months of him being good if you continue last year. So
well, and he also had the injury last year too, so it's kind of get some success early in the season to build on before we promote you.
Exactly.
I think it's the correct approach, but I think we're at the point where it's time for him to move up. He was very close to passing Mike Schwarin as well. He was within like a point. So. Yeah, Scherf's an interesting guy. He moved up. Couple of guys sneaking into the back of the top 20. One who is at as high as he's been in Brian Bayo, not Bello, but Bayo, which now that I know how to pronounce it, I feel really dumb because the double L in Spanish is a
L. Bayo.
E sound.
Yeah. Bayo.
Brian Bayo. Probably should have been pronouncing that right the whole time, but I was hoping it was Bello. Anyway, he actually didn't have a great start today or last night, so the numbers aren't as good as they had been, but he's showing he belongs in Greenville at age 19, coming straight from basically the Dominican Summer League. I'm encouraged by what I've seen out of him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's a 19-year-old kid who's actually holding his own in the Sally League against advanced hitters in very hitter-friendly ballparks. The stuff is intriguing. Obviously there's a lot to work on, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up heading back to Greenville next year too. But, there's things to like here, and the athleticism, the looseness, and the delivery are all encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he got one appearance in the Gulf Coast League last year.
Right. So he basically jumped GCL and Lowell completely.
Yeah.
So
that's a heck of a jump for. I mean, granted, he's not the type of. He wasn't a guy who signed at 16, played in the Dominican Summer League at 17.
But he still, I think, just turned
at 18.
He just turned 20. I want to say.
Is it him?
I think he just turned 20.
That's Mata. That's Mata actually turns 20 tomorrow.
Oh, he's 19 still.
Yeah. Well, no, Bayo turns 20 on May the 17th.
Yeah. A lot of great people have birthdays in May.
Yeah. Anyway, the other guy that jumps back into the top 20 is Travis Lakins. We talked a little bit about him last episode. It's just that he was better for your look at him at Pawtucket than what we saw out of him in spring training.
Yep, and I confirmed that was what I saw was the same as what he was in a recent outing too. Talked to someone who saw him then, so yeah.
There you go. Interesting happenings in the back half, or on the second page of rankings, Ian. Marcus Wilson, the return for Blake Swihart from Arizona, debuts at number 21. We had said last time somewhere between 18 and 23, so he kind of slots in right in the middle there. Any reports yet on him or anything?
No, not yet.
We'll have to see him in person.
Right. He was a tough one to rank just because we haven't seen him, and it was kind of just based on some brief stuff we heard from his time in Arizona was where that ranking is based off of, for those interested.
Mm-hmm. And he's followed by a couple guys who moved up a fair amount.
Well, it wasn't that much, though, because remember, a couple guys graduated.
One guy who graduated wasn't even ranked in Marcus Walden.
But Lynn and Pointer were ahead of both of them.
Lynn was not ranked last month.
Was
he?
We
graduated Lynn before the season started.
Oh, okay, so it was just Pointer. Gotcha, never mind then.
So, yeah, I actually should have adjusted the change this month for that. But at least Occamy's up from 27 to 22. What was Pointer? I think
23, I want to say.
23 was Lakins. 24 was Netzer. 25 was Shugart. 26, I think, was Pointer.
26, okay. I knew he was somewhere in that. No, 27. 26 was Aybar.
Was he? Oh, no, 27 was Occamy. Where the hell
What number was Lakins?
Who was 28? He might have been 28. Okay, so Occamy was ahead of him. Yeah, he was 28. So Occamy did move up 5 spots from 27 to 22.
Yeah, you're right.
Occamy off to a good start, hitting for a ton of pop. He's got 5 bombs already, 402 on base percentage, so he's walking as well. We'll have to see how this pans out. I mean, he starts well pretty much most years. The thing is going to be carrying that over throughout the year for me. So I want to make sure the sample size gets nice and big before I buy in. The other guy who moved up a lot behind him was Cutter Crawford. Crawford moved up 6 spots, but really 5 from 29 to 23. He's off to a good start as well in Salem at an appropriate level. ERA below 2, 26 Ks, 8 walks in 23 innings. I talked about seeing him in person last time. I'd like to see a better third pitch develop, but he seems like with his fastball cutter, he's not really going to be challenged until he gets to Double A. I don't know if that's
he's the type of profile that we need to see it in the high minors, and that's where the lack of third pitch will kind of come out, and why I expect him eventually to move to the bullpen.
Yeah, a couple guys coming up who dropped a bunch, or not a bunch, but a fair amount. Zach Skellinger with a hard K sound. That's the other name I needed to correct. Not Schellinger, but Skellinger. Down from 20 to 26. I don't know what's the deal with him, Ian. 12 walks in 5 1/3 innings.
I would guess he was hurt, but I don't know.
And that's been the knock on him, too, is the ability to stay healthy. Does have 7 Ks in 5 1/3, but...
The stuff is good when he's on, but just health. And I don't know if the cold is an issue with his shoulder or something. I don't know.
He pitched to Seton Hall, man. I mean...
Yeah, sure. So I don't know what the deal is, but it's obviously discouraging considering he was coming off such a strong his year last year was really good. So, and his instructs were disgusting. So yeah.
Got an aggressive assignment, skipping Salem to go to Portland. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens with him in May. The other thing too, again with the Portland guys, I mean the relievers like Skellinger's got 5 1/3 innings. I think Feldman pitched his 8th inning of the year tonight.
Yeah, it's just they're so screwed up because the problem they're running into the issue where the Red Sox have very strict usage patterns for their relievers. It's it's all scheduled out. Like these 2 or 3 guys are throwing today, these guys are throwing tomorrow, and if it gets pushed today, you're waiting another whole day. They don't change it up because of that. Mm-hmm. So you could have guys who are going, almost like starter like length in between outings because of the rainouts and everything.
Right. So that's suboptimal. The other guy, the guy who's behind him, who moved down a bit, and let me pull up this guy's full page, is Pedro Castellanos. Castellanos, we mentioned at the time we were discussing rankings. Let's put it this way: in his first 16 games, from April 4th to April 23rd, Castellanos was hitting 194, 227, 226. So that's an OPS below 500 for reference. However, that said, he's figured something out because from the 24th through last night, in 8 games, he is 16 for 30. So that's a 533 average. The full slash line is 533, 595, 767. Still doesn't have a home run on the year, but he's got 7 doubles in 8 games.
Yeah.
He's figured something out. God, put a ball over the fence, man. please. You're 6'4", you're 6'3", 6'4".
You're corner only guy. Like, we need to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I liked him defensively at first, but I got to see some pop.
Yeah, he's a guy who's going to be really hard to evaluate until he gets to high minors.
Mm-hmm. Until he gets to AAA, probably.
Yeah. So I don't know with him. I think the next guy is kind of more interesting or more concerning to me.
Yeah, and that's Denyi Reyes. Denyi Reyes, he was 19 in the season opening rankings. He's all the way down to 28. He's got 16 walks in 18.
No, 10 walks.
Oh, 10 walks. Sorry, 16 strikeouts. But still, I mean, okay, so 10 walks.
18 innings.
18 innings. 18 innings.
I think he walked like 4 more today. He pitched today.
Did he? Look that up for me.
He got smoked.
In his previous career, he had walked 19 plus 11 is 30. He had walked 33 guys in 3 seasons. And he's walked 14 now this season, Ian?
He walked 3 in 6 innings tonight. So he's walked 13 in 24 innings.
I mean, that's just – I mean, the walk rate – let's put it this way. His walk rate had previously not gone above 5%. It's at 11.8%.
Here's a better way to put it. He has as many walks this year as he had all of last year in Greenville when he threw 123 innings.
Yeah, I mean, then he went up to Salem and walked 6.
But this was – because I was someone who I think I was lower on him than some of the in the rankings and our individual ones. And this was always the concern for me is because the stuff is so fringy. It's just like if hitters are laying off his changeup and he doesn't have the confidence, his fastball, because if he's throwing like 88, you have to be very fine with that fastball. And if you're not perfect with it, either hitters are going to hit home runs or you're going to walk guys because you're missing, you're trying to be too fine on the corners and you're missing. And I think that's the problem he's running into is he's afraid to throw his fastball in the zone. So he's nibbling and trying to get guys to chase. And that's just not going to work against more advanced hitters. And why, like, even though, yes, he's a big extension guy and, he's some deception there, the lack of velocity is just so tough to overcome from the right side.
Yeah. I mean, and we can actually maybe talk about this a little bit. I had, in my personal rankings, Reyes at 23. You had him at 33. And with adding Mike's ranking, Mike had him 26. He comes out at 28 based on how we do it, which I think is fair just because for me, the reason I kept him higher was because, first of all, I don't love the system after like 23, 22.
Yeah, no, it's very close. And I think
it's close and it's debatable.
But I never had him close to 19 in my personal ranks. I don't think he was up in
your personal
25.
rankings to start the year. You had Reyes you had him at 24.
Yeah, but that's not in the top 20 is what I said.
But you said you didn't have him close.
And that's not the top 20. 24 is 4 spots from the top 20.
Thank you for the math lesson. I appreciate that. You had him close. I'm just saying, I moved him down, but it's just the walk thing is so drastic, though. It's just so drastic that it has me wondering if either A, something's wrong, or B, it's an April in Portland thing. Like we just got done talking about.
That is the one thing, but it's just the profile to me is so scary, and that's kind of what overrides it with him. It's like you and I have gotten into kind of these debates about profile of players, and I think a very memorable one back in spring training regarding an outfielder, but. Like, it's just the profile is not a guy I like. Like, I'm like kind of the low guy on Mike Schwarren, and Mike Schwarren has significantly better stuff than Denyi Reyes does.
You are actually the high guy. No, you are the low guy, but it's like 13, 14, 15.
No, I know, but like, you know what I mean in terms of the way I've always had to tone us down on Schwarren because I know the numbers are good, but I just don't like the stuff. And Reyes' stuff is not close to Schwarren's. So that's really concerning to me.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Reyes had a big drop. Shortly behind him is a guy that you could probably talk about a little more than me, and that's Thaddeus Ward, who prefers Thaddeus, apparently, not Thad. He's up 8 spots from 38 to 30. Hot start to the year. We've gotten some good reports on him. What did you see from him last year, and what do you think might be leading to the success this year, Ian?
I saw him in Lowell a bunch last year, and he's just a really athletic guy, good frame, some projection. Like, he was really skinny. I think he could eventually gain a little more velo. And I think he's just come out and, he's throwing strikes. I want to say the reports are like, he's like 91, 93-ish, maybe up to 94, 95, I want to say. So the velo is there and he's just keeping the ball in the yard. And that's hard to do given some of the parks they play in. Mm-hmm. But, he's just a, college guy, 4 pitches.
93, 94.
Yeah, so his velo's up a little tick, like, because I saw him last year, he was more like 91, 93. But he's just college guy throwing well in Greenville. Obviously that's what you hope they do. That's what you want to see happen. And he's another guy I think could get the bump to Salem pretty quickly. Yeah, because he's already 22 years old.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he could easily move up pretty quick, especially if, I do wonder if Mata continues to have success. At some point he goes up to Portland, and Ward could easily be a midseason promotion to Salem.
I think it's a chain thing with Mata. Mata will come up when Dart wins and goes up to Pawtucket is my feeling.
You think?
I think they're going to give Mata a decent amount of time.
That's true. Yeah, Mata I could see. And the thing is, they have guys in the rotation in Salem, like Daniel Gonzalez can easily get bumped into a piggyback role for Scherf going up. So that doesn't need to be a chain promotion. But Ward Mata Hernandez seems like a fair prediction for a chain promotion, unless there's someone in Greenville who I'm forgetting about.
Well, Scherf is the other one, but yeah.
Well, Scherf, that's my point, is Scherf doesn't need a chain promotion.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, yes. No, he's...
Mackamer's having a good start, but I would like to...
he's an interesting guy. I just think he's more like... He's not on the tier of those other players.
Yeah. So that's Ward. Anyone else you want to mention, Ian, really? I mean, maybe the other guy, the biggest jump of anybody...
You're going to mention who I was going to say.
Yeah, is Ryan Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald jumped all the way from 56 to 37, and I think part of it is just that's how closely grouped together these guys are. And really, with Fitzgerald, we were all relatively close on him moving up, which was interesting given how much he was moving. But yeah, I mean, Fitzgerald is just he can field the position. It's not in an overwhelmingly like double plus rate or anything like that, but he's at least average, maybe better. I need to get more looks at him to get a feel for the D, but. He's hitting in Salem, and the thing with him has been, age appropriateness.
But I don't really care about age appropriate for him, given his story of, he was an indie ball guy who did the whole swing change stuff, and he's hitting for power. Obviously, not home runs because it's Salem, but slugs around 500. He hit last year in Greenville. It's just kind of. He's showing up, and as you said, given how tightly grouped this crew is, he kind of has jumped ahead of some guys who are maybe not necessarily off to the greatest starts or who were injured or whatever.
Yeah, and when I'm at Salem, based on what I'm seeing, it's the Fitzgerald and Duran show, and now Castellanos is catching up with them in terms of production. And I'm hearing from scouts, hey, it's Fitzgerald and Duran on that team. Those are the guys that I liked. So Fitzgerald with a pretty huge jump. Some guys who fell in, maybe we can. Yohan Aybar dropped a fair amount, 10 walks in 8 innings, although 10 strikeouts. He is what he is. I think we're just kind of pumping the brakes on the development there and maybe getting him off the fast track. I don't know if you've got thoughts on the Aybar drop as your point.
No, I think I argued we shouldn't drop as much as we were going to. But yeah, he is what he is. Like, he's still so raw that
we were dropping him more, and you talked me and Mike up more than that. I think he was dropping even more. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just don't he's so raw as a pitcher. Give him time. This is his first full season stint. He's thrown in competitive games, 28 innings. Yeah. Let's cut some slacks.
Let's do this. Anybody pick one guy from 41 to 60 or not in the top 60, perhaps even, who you think could be a big jumper next month.
Geez. If Alexander Montero ever got healthy, maybe he could. He's someone who I saw one of his 2 starts or 4 starts last year in Lowell, and he was filthy. Uh-huh. And he was 92, 94 up to 95 with a couple secondary pitches that I had some feel for, but he's just not been healthy since then. So who knows with him? So
yep.
Other than that, it's going to be, I think the back end of the list is going to be pretty fluid, and there aren't going to be that many big risers until the short season starts, because a lot of these guys are going to go to GCL or Lowell. Yeah. And that's kind of where the magic will start to happen with them, and we'll start to get some looks.
Yeah. We should also mention debuts in the back half of the top, or not the back half, the last 10 spots. We've got Andrew Stump the Schwab debuting at number 54 after a hot start in Portland. Kyle Hart debuting at number 55 after almost winning Pitcher of the Month with a great start in Portland himself. And Tanner Nishioka, who didn't even play that much but was hitting when he was playing before going on the injured list in Salem, pops in at number 56. He's a guy that if he got healthy and came back and started hitting, I could see him maybe jumping up 10 spots from there pretty easily, just based on who's ahead of him.
Yeah. Definitely.
He could easily move up. I don't know that I would have to see him in person to put him in the top 40, but If he came back and started hitting again, he could easily move up as well.
I think Schwab is someone that's interesting, though, because I saw him in spring training, and his stuff was pretty good. It's just really funky. He's from like that low arm slot, low 90s fastball, just a ton of movement, keeps the ball down, and he's off to a really good start, 11 innings, 5 hits only, and 18 strikeouts, so that's pretty encouraging. So he's someone I'm kind of monitoring, even though he's 26 and kind of been jumped around a little bit. I think he was with the Yankees before, but he was a minor league Rule 5 pick. I mean, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we've never really seen much come out of those, so it is kind of interesting to see what will happen with those guys. Anyone else that you think might be poised for a big move next month, Ian, whether it's kind of from somewhere else in the more prospects pay? I mean, Fitzgerald could keep moving up if he keeps hitting.
I think Fitzgerald could. I think Schwab is another one if he keeps showing. If he shows he's a potential big league reliever, like there's no reason he should be below guys like Jake Thompson and Jordan Weems, so he could jump up into the mid-30s. Joe, I guess I'll mention someone kind of in the 30s that just is. He's like the person who never goes away.
I was looking at him.
Joan Martinez is off to another. Is off to another fantastic start in terms of striking guys out. He's got 24 strikeouts in 15 innings, and for whatever reason, they're using him in 2-inning stints. But don't get me started on that. But if he shows the stuff that we've seen him when he's at his best, I mean, he's been up to 100 before. If he's doing that again, then that's really interesting.
Yeah, he's just so inconsistent. I don't know whether is it an off-season thing? Is it who knows, man? Like,
because I'm looking at his game logs, and he's had 2 absolutely terrible outings, and then other than that, he hasn't given up a run in any other outings. So it's like
24 strikeouts and 15 2/3 is nice.
Yeah, and only 5 walks, which for him is pretty good. So
yeah, I saw him in spring training and liked what I saw too. So
he's one to
watch. Martinez is definitely a guy who can move up quick. But again, with him, it's just we have to see a sample size because it's consistency.
Right, exactly. But even when we're talking about move up, I don't think there's anyone who could like jump into the top 20 who's outside the top 30 right now or anything like that. I mean, it's going to take some time.
Yes and no. I mean, if Marcus Wilson got hot.
Well, no. I said for who's outside the top 30.
Outside the top 30, no. There's no big. I don't see big jumps happening.
So
Fitzgerald could be poised to move into the 30s.
But he's going to be a guy. He needs to get up to Portland if they're going to keep doing this. Except the problem is because he's 24 already, but they have Chatham there already, so he's not going to go up until Chatham goes up, and it's like
And one thing we should mention before we sign off here as we approach an hour. So much. I don't know why we even say we're going to have short podcasts at this point. Promotions, because this is the time of year when people start talking about promotions. Put it this way: if you think a guy might be ready for a promotion, go to his stat line or go to his career stats and look at how many plate appearances he has had at that level. If a guy has had fewer than 200 plate appearances at the level, he's not getting promoted yet. Because what you need is a guy to get a certain amount of playing time where the performance is going to regress to the mean a little bit. You're not just watching a hot streak. You're not just watching luck. You need teams to see him twice. We talked about this a little bit on the last podcast when I mentioned that Ryan Fitzgerald was getting shifted, right? The next series in Potomac, he was not getting shifted. And that's because Potomac hadn't seen him yet. Frederick had seen him before and knew to shift him. So you want teams to adjust to a player, and you want the player to adjust to those adjustments. That can't happen if you're promoting him before he sees a team 2 or 3 times. Pitchers, same thing. You need teams to see this stuff 2 or 3 times. You need teams to know what the scouting report is coming in with a guy. Although organizations have advanced amateur scouts, they're not necessarily doing that to pass that information along to their high A affiliate so that they know how to shift a guy, so that they know what's coming. That could happen a little bit, but you're not doing that to help the Salem, Virginia Red Sox, to help the Frederick Keys, to help the Potomac Nationals win more games, right? So while that happens a little bit, you want teams to see guys multiple times. You want guys to see teams multiple times. I've seen a lot of talk that C.J. Chatham needs to get promoted to the Pawtucket Red Sox. Not yet, guys. Not yet. Chatham is basically healthy to start a year for the first time ever. Literally the first time ever since they've signed him as a professional. Let him get some at-bats under his belt. Last year he got 360 plate appearances at bats in Salem. This year Chatham is at 84 plate appearances. Let's get into June before we're looking at promoting C.J. Chatham. Let's not rush things with Chatham. Sure, if we're saying as a candidate for an early promotion, to Salem. Chatham would be a promotion to Pawtucket. Scherf is a candidate to get the bump because he was pitching in Greenville last year. He had 65 innings in Greenville last year. This year he's up to another 18 innings in Greenville. Let's let Scherf get maybe another couple starts, another start or two maybe, and he'll be at the kind of level that you need him to be to get Scherf for promotion. But that's why Scherf is a candidate, is because he's repeating a level. Brian Mata is repeating a level. Those are the guys who get the early bumps up. You're not really going to see that with a Chatham at this point. You're not going to see that with a Jarren Duran yet. Let's let teams see Duran multiple times before we start talking about promoting Duran. Duran, again, aggressive promotion this year because last year he got 168 plate appearances in Lowell, 134 plate appearances in Greenville. He got an off season. I want to see him get 200 plate appearances in Salem before you start talking about moving him up. Maybe he'll do it at a 225. With a lot of guys, they're talking 250, 300. So let's let these guys get a little bit of a base underneath them. They're already challenging Duran really aggressively by putting him in Salem. Duran's not ready to go up. So let's slow the roll a little bit. That's my rant. Ian, anything to add on guys getting promoted? We talked, Chatham, Duran, Scherf, being ready because he's repeating. That's why we're talking about him getting promoted. But let guys get some innings, get some plate appearances under their belts before we move them up.
I agree. The organization knows more than we do. They'll promote the guys when they think they're ready.
Yeah, and there could be things they're working on that you're not seeing. Maybe they want Duran to get more innings in center field and a big outfield in Salem before they move him up and have him start having to worry about the mini monster at Hadlock, the main monster.
Or it's also, they might have a coach there that they like him working with or whatever they're clicking with. So that's another thing to keep in mind. I know they used to be the case when Carlos Fabulous was in Portland.
Yep.
He was the infield coach. They liked having their infielders work with him, so they might help back guys a little longer to spend some time there.
I mean, that's a big part of why Fabulous got the third base job in Boston.
Yep. You mean the Rafael Devers infield coach job?
Yeah, basically. Basically. So, yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap up, Ian. We're right around 60 minutes. Thank you all for the download. Thank you for listening. Thank you for streaming, doing whatever you do to listen to the podcast. Big shout out to our podcast editor, Podcast Joe 2.0. Follow Ian on Twitter at Ian Cundall. That's IANCUNDALL. Follow me at SP Chris Hatfield, spelt with a T, not with a D like the astronaut. And make sure you follow the main site account at Sox Prospects. We're making that account a lot more active. You get daily probables. You get some highlights from games, links to the cup of coffee, things like that. So make sure you check all that out. Make sure you email us podcast@soxprospects.com, and you can support the podcast at patreon.com/soxprospects. Time to sign off. For Ian, I'm Chris. I'm going to Greece, y'all. I'll bring you back some feta, bring you back some baklava or whatever. Baklava's not Greece.
No, that's Middle Eastern.
That's Middle Eastern. Yeah, that's more Armenian, Middle Eastern. I'll bring you back. What's the dessert? I'll bring
Greek salad.
Greek salad, I guess. Bring you some olives, some marinated olives.
God, we're so culturally I've never been to Greece, so I have an excuse here.
I'll tell you what the dessert is. Oh, you know what it is? They have that thing they light on. There's a thing they light on fire.
Creme brulee?
No, it's not creme brulee and it's not baked Alaska, but I'll think of it for next time. Thanks for listening, everybody.